Welcome back to the Barley Lads. Please remember to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Today we're drinking Old Forester 1920. This is Old Forester 1920 Prohibition style, Kentucky Straight Bourbon from the Brown-Forman Distillery in Shively, Kentucky. 57.5% or 115 proof. This is a non-age statement, minimum 4 years. Price-wise, you should be able to get this around $55. Mash bill, 72% corn, 18% rye, 10% malted barley. This is Old Forester 1920. This is part of the Whiskey Rose series. Depending on when we release this, we've also done the 1910. So you're going to get a little bit more background on that if you watch that video. But George Gervin Brown is the founder of Old Forester whiskey. The name actually comes from a Dr. Forester who basically put his stamp of approval on Brown's products. So George Gervin Brown started in 1870. He was basically a whiskey bonder before that was a thing. And so he would buy barrels from local distilleries and blend them himself to create what he would consider a superior whiskey than just the individual barrels. And he would bottle those himself as well as seal them so they were tamper-proof. And it was one of the first bottlings of bourbon on the market, as well as the first with a real stamp of approval. Things started changing for Brown throughout the decades though, because in 1897 the Bottled and Bond Act came into existence, and with that he had to purchase his own distillery to start producing bonded whiskey, and so it had to live in a bonded warehouse by US government control. And once he started doing that, then his brand even just took off even further. And it is one of the few, if not only, distilleries to remain, or brands to remain in the same control, the family control, throughout, not only before Prohibition, but also during and after. They were one of the few distilleries, I think there were only 10 total in the country, that were allowed to distill during Prohibition, which kind of comes back to this bottling as medicinal whiskey. So the proof on this is 115 proof. The reason for that is at the time during Prohibition, you could only, I believe, barrel and bottle at 100 proof. So when they would barrel their whiskeys after they were done aging, they would proof up to about 115 proof, with the evaporation of water being stronger than the evaporation of alcohol within the barrel. So they would then proof those bottles back down to 100 proof to be able to sell those during Prohibition. But because this is Prohibition style and they wanted to add something that's closer to probably cask strength, they have released this 115 proof under the 1920 Prohibition style name. So 115, this is going to be a little warmer than most bottles. And you definitely get a slight ethanol burn, but just because there's just so much alcohol in this. But once you get past that first hit, you definitely get some classic bourbon notes of caramel and maybe some brown sugar. And a strong oak character as well. The taste is better than the nose. Again, you get some caramel, but a strong dark chocolate flavor. I didn't expect that. And I would say probably because from the heat, some baking spices, almost some dark fruit, which is kind of surprising as from a bourbon. But still some cherry, which I think is something that kind of goes through all of the Old Forester line. Very good whiskey though. It is a little hot, probably Most of the time I would drink this, I'd probably add a dash of water just to proof it down, probably closer to 100. Make it a little bit easier to drink. But a long finish. Oaky, but again, that dark chocolate, but more bitterness. Not bad though, not a bad bitter. And almost a sweet, like almost marshmallowy quality to it, which is different, at least for me. So, thanks again for watching another episode of the Barley Lads. Today we've been talking about Old Forester 1920. Cheers.